Luke, I have absolutely nothing of value to say.
I know, Father. It's just the same as last week.
Yes. Yes, it is. Ladies and gentlemen, do not be alarmed. A cynical Brit has been allowed on the air with a microphone. You will listen, or the kitten we have hostage will be forced to fight a giant badger. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a Blue Please. Enjoy. Wow. Radio. Nothing of value to say. Kind of sums up the show, really. This is Blue Please here on Whine Radio with myself, TotalBiscuit. Welcome back. You didn't really go anywhere, but welcome back anyway. Right. Okay. Let's get the real life stuff out of the way first. What's been going on with me? Who cares? Nobody. Fantastic. That's why I'm going to tell you anyway, just to annoy you. Yeah, so I've been working in game for the past week. That's quite fun. Certainly better than my last job, which consisted of me sitting there typing out boring judges' reports on why some poor soul couldn't get into the UK. Ugh, immigration for the lose. Yeah, so I work in game, and the few things I've discovered while working in game are as follows. The 50-cent game is rubbish. Not enough people like X3, and never, ever, ever ask me what World of Warcraft is all about, because you will be in the shop for hours. It happened, folks. Yes, indeed, and he did walk out with a copy of WoW. I told him to roll Druid. Was that cruel and bad of me? We shall see. Yeah, alright, okay. Next up is an apology. There's going to be no Blue Please next week. Why is there going to be no Blue Please next week? Because I am going to get on a plane and I'm going to go and see a girl. Why am I going to do that? Because I want to. And I feel like it. And when you find a girl that's worth getting on a large metal tube with wings that quite frankly should not be in the sky at all, and flying to a foreign country just specifically to see her, then, well, radio shows kind of go out the window. So, no Blue Please next week, sorry, and all that bollocks. Right, okay, let's get on to show topics for the day. You know exactly what's come out this week, or the details of patch 1.9. So, most of the show today will be concerned with that. Right. What shall I tackle first? Let's have a look. Okay, right, Gates of Ahn'Qiraj. We already pretty much know what Ahn'Qiraj is going to be about. It's going to be 2 dungeons, a 20-man and a 40-man. 20-man must be done before the 40-man. The 20-man apparently is going to be slightly easier than Zul'Gurub, with the 40-man being on the level slightly more difficult than Blackwing Lair. Not only that, but we've seen some of the loot coming out of there so far, and it's looking rather impressive. Right, there's a couple of things I'd like to highlight about the loot in Ahn'Qiraj before I get onto some other things that I could probably spend more time talking about. Right, okay, first things first. What I noticed about the loot in Ahn'Qiraj, especially the caster-orientated loot, is that they're bringing in something rather interesting. Something that I've been asking for personally for a while, and that's the idea of caster procs. What is a caster proc? What is a proc to start with? For those who don't know, a proc is an effect on a weapon, which has a chance of happening every time you swing that weapon. So if you had Crusader and it procced, it would give you the bonus strength. If you had fire enchant and it procced, it would do a small amount of fire damage to the target. What's a caster proc? A caster proc is a proc which procs. A proc which procs. A proc which procs. So the proc procs. How much proc could a proc if a proc could proc? Okay, now I'm confused. Procs, yes. Caster procs. Procs off a spell. What kind of thing am I talking about? Well, they already existed in a very, very minute amount in the game before. If you notice, one of the quest rewards from the level 50 Mage quest is a dagger. It's rubbish, but it does have a proc, a chance on cast of reducing your next ice bolt by 50 mana. It exists. Now we're getting more of them. There are several things coming out. Don Rodrigo's band would be a good example. That's going to give you a chance on cast of reducing the target's resistance to spells. And there is also a staff in Ahn'Qiraj, which is going to be doing the same on a bigger scale. Reduce the resistances. Interesting idea. What would the effect of that be? As it says on the tin. You reduce the resistances, you reduce the chance of resistance. However, in the current resistance system, if you take resistances down to a negative level, you will gain extra damage. In a way, it's partly responsible for the 4,500k crits that you see certain builds of Warlocks getting every now and again. Shadowbolt, 4,500. How did that happen? A combination of various things, including negative resistance. Now, here's what really confuses me. Now, I know for a fact that Blizzard were claiming that they were going to change resistances. How? And how does this particular item and this whole idea of caster procs reducing resistances actually fit in with their whole new strategy on resistances? Do we even know what they're going to do with resistances? The short answer to that is pretty much no. From what we've heard, it would be reasonable to assume that resistances are going to be changed in a more linear fashion than they are right now. Let's face it. If a target has negative resistance, or a target has positive resistance, the current effects are rather random. Those of you who play Fire Mages will be well aware, if you go up against Molten Core equipped people, that resistances can be a very unpleasant thing to see. Now, resistances include effects like, well, okay, I'm blasting away at some Wrath equipped warrior, and he's got some fire resist gear. So I'm blasting away, fireball, fireball, fireball. Oh, most of my damage has just vanished on the third fireball for no apparent reason. Now, it's not a linear decrease in damage. If I were to fire a fireball and you had 50 resistance up, every single time that fireball hit, it wouldn't resist 50 damage. No, it would be random. Maybe I wouldn't resist at all. I'd get no resistance for hours, and then suddenly my pyroblast hits for 2. With 2,000 resisted. It's a wee bit odd. But that's simply the way it works. An oversimplified and possibly inaccurate description of it, but that is the basic gist. So what's going to happen? Very good question. What is going to happen to resistances? Especially with this new proc in it. What's going to happen? I don't know. Why would I know? But it will be interesting to see. Now, if you notice in the patch notes, there is, as far as I can see, nothing about resistances. I will do a quick search just to check that I'm not wrong. Okay. Now, there's been a change to Warlocks. Note this. Curse of Shadows and Curse of Elements. These curses can no longer cause resistance to become negative. To compensate, both curses now increase the damage taken from the appropriate schools by a percentage. Now, here's the weird thing. Okay. They've done that. But there's nothing else in the patch notes about resistances. How odd. So, is it a case of they're not going to change the system, or are they simply going to change the things which affect the system in a more negative way? I.e., stuff like Curse of Shadows, Curse of Elements. Is that what's going to be happening with the new caster procs? Are they going to work in the same way? So if I were to have my Staff of Uberness proc, and it reduces your resistance by 60, yet you only have 50 in the first place, I cannot reduce your resistance to minus 45. However, would damage increase? Or is this just on Curse of Shadows and Curse of Elements? A little bit hazy there. I'm not sure what's going on. Interesting. I think it would be safe to assume that resistances in future will be that way. A more linear reduction in damage and a reduction in resistance reduces resistance, obviously, to the target. And stuff like Curse of Shadows, Curse of Elements increase damage. I would only assume that resistance-reducing procs would do the same thing. Is that the way we want it to go? I would probably say yes in this respect. How else can we do it? Resistances at the moment are a bit dodgy, to say the least. Random. Too random. You can't really tell what's going to be happening. There seems to be a little bit too much luck involved in the resistance system itself. It's a tricky puzzle. A linear reduction might work, but then again, would it scale properly? Would it be a percentage? Would, say, one resistance reduce resistance by 1%? Well, that can't work, because if you had 300% resistance, then you're not going to be hit by anything, are you? How would it work? Would it be capped? Would it be a sliding scale? Say, if you had 10 resistance, that might reduce the damage by 1%, but if you had 20 resistance, that might reduce it by 5. So, you have a reverse sliding scale. A curve which is not linear. The higher you get, the more resistance you get, and maybe capped off at the end. Maybe, maybe not. Will it work? Possibly. It always puzzled me when I saw the items for the thorium armor set in-game. I thought, hey, this looks cool. But then I thought, hang on. So you want me to sacrifice all this strength, all these stats, for resistances which probably won't make a blind bit of difference? Would stuff like thorium armor, bright cloth robes, wizard weave, and all such things become viable were a resistance system like that to be put in? Probably. Is that something you'd like to see? Email themurloc@gmail.com, let me know. Now, back to Ahn'Qiraj. What do we really need to know about Ahn'Qiraj? Ahn'Qiraj is just another instance. And it's coming out with some really nice things. Some are heralding the arrival of Tier 3 item sets which can be found in Ahn'Qiraj. Some are hailing the additions of new spell ranks. Some are just drooling over the thought of a 120 DPS one-handed mace, which has in fact been seen on the item list. Whether or not it's fake or not, we do not know. Whether it will be nerfed is questionable. Now, there's one interesting thing about that mace that kind of confused me. That mace has a passive effect. It's a very powerful mace that has a passive effect that increases attack power when in cat form, bear form, dire bear form. That's cool, but let's face it, Blizz, are you really expecting anyone who can use a mace in melee combat not to roll on something that powerful? This thing outdamages Sulfuris and it's a one-hander. Where's the logic in that? We will have to see what happens there. Whether it will be nerfed, I don't know. Whether it will be ridiculously attainable or unattainable, as the case may be, questionable. We don't know this. But it does seem to me that something so powerful couldn't possibly be easily attainable. And that something so powerful should never, ever outrank the power of a legendary weapon, especially not a two-hander. interesting. What did strike me as odd about that mace was that it's a 2.1 speed. What you would usually expect from a 2.1 speed weapon is a lower maximum damage. In this case, no. There is no lower maximum damage. The maximum damage is extremely high. That allows for big crits. It allows for attack power to work in your favour, especially with the new attack power calculations. I can see everyone rolling on it. It's not a druid weapon, because it's so powerful. Very odd way of itemizing. It may be changed. It may even be a fake mace. We don't know. Slipped into the screenshots, photoshopped. How should we know? We'll have to wait and see, folks. Now, I wanted to go and have a shot at Ahn'Qiraj on the test server, but the queue was 10,000 people long, so I thought, I don't really have the time for this. That's almost as bad as a dagger spine. I did have a chance to have a shot at Ahn'Qiraj at BlizzCon, though. It's what you'd expect from an instance. If you've seen some of the screenshots, the indoor areas are good. The outdoor areas remind me of Zul'Farrak, only more purple. There was a nasty purple haze over the instance, and I wasn't too pleased. The pulls are as you would expect. They're a mixture of Molten Core and Zul'Gurub style pulls. The first pull are these two big Ahn'Qiraji gladiators, which might as well be the same as Molten Giants, only geared towards a 20-man. It's what you'd expect from an instance. I'm not going to complain, because in my opinion, the more instances, the better. The more places there are to get viable loot, the better. My only concern is that it appears to be progressing in a linear fashion. Zul'Gurub, Molten Core, Blackwing Lair, 40-man Ahn'Qiraj. Now, there has at least been a little bit of variation put in there with the 20-man Ahn'Qiraj, but I'm not so sure if this is what we want. Do we want a ladder of instances that you have to go up in a linear order? You have to do this, and then this, and then this. You can't jump the queue because you will get your arse handed to you on a silver platter, sir. We'll see. We shall see what Blizzard has. What the hell was that? Oh, it's a song. Well, you can have it, because I pressed the wrong button. You're listening to the podcast and archive of Blue Please. You can listen in live on Sundays at 17:30 GMT. That's 12:30 Eastern Standard Time, with a lively musical pre-show kicking off 1 hour beforehand. If you like WoW Radio's productions, then make sure to dig our shows at dig.com and check out our website at www.wcradio.com. Broadcasting across the world and around the globe for Azerothians everywhere, ladies and gentlemen, this is WoW Radio. Yes, indeed. Right, that's the commercial metal out of the way. I shall be playing Epic. Yes, I did say Epic for the rest of the show. Nah. Right, that was, of course, System of a Down, brand new. That was Attack from Hypnotize, and before that, not exactly what I had in mind to play, because I pressed the wrong button. It skipped to a random track and decided just to play it. That was actually 1 Minute Silence 1845. Oops. Okay, never mind. It happens. This is TotalBiscuit with Blue Please here on WoW Radio, and we're talking about the patch. Now, I want to take a more general topic before delving into the specifics of this patch, and I want to take it from two different angles. Euphemisms for the win. Right. Now, I would like to contrast two things. I would like to contrast the current Mage whining that Mages are not getting changed, and the current Paladin whining that Paladins are getting changed. I ask you this, is Blizzard in a damned if you don't and damned if you do situation? Yes, I got the quote wrong. I don't care. Same principle. So, I usually avoid the issue of class balance because, one, I don't feel like I can talk about it in anything other than a Mage context because I don't play anything but a Mage. I've got some alts, but I know virtually nothing about them other than the basics. I'm not going to argue level 60 PvP balance for a class that I only have as a level 16. It's not going to happen. So, what I will deal with, however, is Mage balance. Now, I'm going to annoy some people here. No doubt I am. And I'll tell you this. This opinion is mine alone. If you disagree with it, that is your own problem. I have absolutely no qualms with telling you that I think that mages are absolutely fine. I shall explain why. The thread I wanted to link has unfortunately vanished, I assume because it was full of bollocks. However, I will reprise what I can remember of it. Now, someone posted on the general forums a big thread about how mages suck in every possible way. Basically, this guy hates his class. He really does. He hates it with a passion. He can't seem to find a single good word to say about it. The gist of it was, he said that mages are broken in PvE, mages are broken in raiding, and mages are broken in PvP. So, the three biggest elements of the game, mages apparently can't do jack in. Okay. Well, I disagree. I've got level 60 mage. My level 60 mage is my main. I've got 45 days played on the EU servers. It's not all that much, I'm sure some of you have got twice that, but I think I know my class reasonably well. Let me deal with these points one at a time. Point. Mages are broken in PvE. Lies. Blatant, barefaced lies. If a mage is broken in PvE, then explain to me how I can solo a 61 elite without it even touching me. If mages are broken in PvE, then explain to me how I can maintain a DPS of over 500 against a target. If mages are broken in PvE, explain to me how I can kill the entire Twilight Prophet patrol consisting of 1 level 61 elite and 8 level 60 mobs and still survive. How can I do that? Am I using hacks? No. Nevermore has the term learn to play your class noob ever been more poignant and meaningful. Every class in WoW has strengths and weaknesses, as you well know. And yet WoW does not require individual player skill. So what does it require? Can I just sit there bashing random buttons and will I win? No, of course not. However, what it does require is knowledge. Knowledge of your class. Knowledge of everyone else's class. Knowledge of how to fight. Basic principles of a mage. Glass cannon. Low hit points. Pathetic armor. Lots of ranged damage. Now, people say, but they're not a glass cannon because we can't outdamage hunters. Yes, you can. You're just not doing it properly. Now, when a hunter fights, he doesn't just fight with nothing. No, he fights with a good set of equipment. He fights with ranged attack power. He fights with agility to give him crit chance. And he fights with a marksmanship build, for instance. Any build that he feels will benefit him most in doing damage over a distance. A mage is exactly the same. If you decide to kit up in eagle gear and you complain about not doing enough damage, then there's something wrong there. What would a hunter do with a rubbish bow and no ranged attack power? Nothing. He'd suck. What do we do with no plus spell power? Nothing. We suck. Oh really? A little parallel there. Now, I'm not going to say that a mage class is perfect. What I will say is that if you want to do damage, then maybe you should start investing in plus damage gear. It's a crazy concept, I know. Damage equals damage. Wow, a formula for all the ages. No, it's really quite simple. If you want to do damage, that's the kind of equipment you've got to go for. Now, whether or not Blizzard is wrong in saying that you've got to do that is questionable. However, the point of the matter was that they're useless in PvE, and they can't do the damage. Wrong. What about raiding? Now, those of you who've raided Molten Core will be well aware that half of a mage's job in Molten Core is to decurse. We have to do a lot of decursing. Some fights we will only spend decursing. Lucifron, for instance, is mostly decursing. Gehennis is mostly decursing. Shazra is mostly decursing. And half of Major Domo is sheeping things. However, in Molten Core, my mage was in the top 5 damage dealers, despite the fact that half the time I was hammering the remove curse button. How did I do that? It's easy. My mage is damage spec'd. It does damage. It's that simple. How can they suck in raiding if they can do so much damage? People say, well, a hunter outdamages them. Of course a hunter outdamages them. A hunter doesn't have to decurse. A hunter can sit there plugging away happily. The reason rogues and hunters end up at the top of damage meters is because that's all they do. They are primary damage dealers. They have no other real function. That's what they do. You don't need a rogue for anything other than lots and lots of damage in MC. Rogues don't have to decurse. Rogues don't have to banish. Rogues do not have to heal. That's why they're up there. You will notice in many instances that mages will top the damage. Why? Because they're actually doing damage all the time. It might seem obvious, but some people seem to miss this point. They look at the damage meter on their mage and they say, hey, I suck. My class sucks because I'm not top of the list. You're not top of the list because you're not only doing damage. Are you unhappy in your role? Is this a problem for you, that you don't just sit there hammering the frostbolt button all the time? That you have to decurse? That in some instances you even have to polymorph? A scary thought. That, unfortunately, is just the way it is. I've got no problem with that. It makes my role a little bit more interesting. I don't just have to sit there hammering the frostbolt button, because sometimes I get to decurse as well. Brilliant. PvP. This is where most people get riled. They say, Zomg, I can't beat this class. My class sucks. No. You suck. Why do I say that? Examine what the mage has at its disposal. A mage has an unparalleled number of crowd control, slowing, snaring abilities, and escape tactics. It has chill effects on several spells. It has the chill and slow effect associated with ice armor. It has Frost Nova. It has Cone of Cold. It has Blink. It has Mana Shield. If you're the right spec, you can have Ice Block and Ice Barrier as well. That's quite a lot of defensive abilities. I'm sure Warlocks would kill for that many. Wow. Howl of Terror. Death Coil. That must help. Now, that is one element of a mage, and the second element of a mage is the ability to deal a lot of damage over a distance. People say, oh, but a hunter can do this on an aim shot. I can do that on a fireball, and that's a standard attack. I could do that on a frostbolt. Wow, 1.8k aim shot crit. Oh, my frostbolt does that. Not only that, but with my spec I can increase my critical chance damage if I'm attacking a frozen target. Yeah, I'm frost spec'd, but I've also played fire. I've also played arcane and every major hybrid build in the game. And I can say that there's nothing wrong with the class. Specific arguments. The mage doesn't do enough damage. Wrong. It obviously does. It deals it out at a horrific rate, no matter what spec you are. Frost spec is probably the lowest damage output. On the line with arcane. But when it crits, it's nasty. With plus damage, it works very well. So you take your spec, and you customize your character. Your character is based on gear. If you have the wrong gear for your spec, you are going to suck. I remember I was spec'd pure arcane at one point. And I went the mana whoring approach. I had 8.2k mana. What good did it do me in PvP? Absolutely nothing. It was rubbish. Of course it was rubbish. It was an instancing spec. I knew that. It's obvious. I didn't expect my spec to pwn in PvP. It didn't. And that's simply what happened. It's all about common sense. The only valid argument I could find in this guy's post, and I'm sorry I can't show you this post, because it appears to have vanished. But he said, oh, resistances are a problem for fire mages and so forth. Yeah, they are, but it's getting sorted out. Blizzard have already said this. There's no point in whining about it. As a mage, you are gear dependent. And people complain. They say, oh, why should we be more gear dependent than a warrior? You aren't. Have you tried fighting a naked warrior? It's easy. They can't do anything. Whereas if you fight a naked mage, they can do something. And heck, against a warrior, I'd probably win. It's this simple, folks, and the point I'm trying to make is this. Don't mess with a class if you don't need to. Don't demand changes when they're not necessary. Learn to play your class, and rewards will come your way. I'm a mage, and I don't whine. I like my class, and I don't want it to be changed. I really don't. It's that simple. I do not want my class to be changed, because I like it just the way it is. People say that the talent trees are useless. I've gone pure on every single talent tree at one point in my life, and there are only a handful of talents that I have not had a use for. Some are more useful than others, but then again, that's going to happen with every tree. And that's why, if you wish, you can do a hybrid build. You have that option. You are not forced to take an entire tree. No, not at all. You listen to Blue Please here on WoW Radio with myself, TotalBiscuit. And it may be time for our little friend. Someone that we all love to hate. Yes, indeed.
Ask the Murloc. Ask the Murloc.
Dear Murloc, how do you save the game? I want to be able to quit and then come back where I left off.
Hide in the nearest rock and plead for your life, foolish mortals, for it is I, the Murloc. Come to rain fire and brimstone on your homesteads and scare away your cats. You incompetent fool, of course I can answer your pifflingly easy query. To save the game, you need to use the in-game hotkeys, which are combinations of different buttons used to perform a particular task. In this case, the combination you need to use is Alt and F4. This will instantly save your game. You can also restart the game in an easier mode by pressing the power button on your computer 3 times and then kicking it repeatedly until the gold falls out. This should solve all your problems.
Ask the Murloc.
Dear Murloc, I am a pretty low-level char and I was wondering, how do you get to the Alliance place from the hordes? I've heard something about a boat. Will you help me, please?
Yes, I know what it is you seek. As a level 12 Horde player, it is obligatory that you make a trip to Stormwind, which is a small Alliance village to the east of the Undercity. You'll have to travel through the Plague Lands, but don't worry, they're nowhere near as bad as they sound. You should visit Light Hope's Chapel along the way, which really is as beautiful as it sounds, with lots of friendly people waiting to help you on your quest. Should you reach Stormwind, please speak to the cheese vendor. The bastard owes me £10. Ha-ha!
Dear Murloc, I'm not very creative, and I can't think of a good name for my character on a role-playing server. Can you help me?
Yes, you've come to the right place. You see, the Murloc is a role-playing connoisseur and a fantastically creative name generator. All rolled into one and free to download. Yes, indeed. Okay, generally speaking, role-players are a relaxed bunch, fond of internet crazes, overused cliches, and names involving words like owns, 50 Cent, and 007. My suggestion for the perfect role-playing name would therefore be as follows. Really, OMG lasers, pew pew, 50 Cent owns 007. Now be gone before I purge your soul with flame while sipping this fine cognac. Ha-ha!
Ask the Murloc.
You're listening to the podcast and archive of Blue Please. You can listen in live on Sundays at 17:30 GMT. That's 12:30 Eastern Standard Time with a lively musical pre-show kicking off 1 hour beforehand. If you like WoW Radio's productions, then make sure to dig our shows at dig.com and check out our website at www.wcradio.com.
Yes, the sounds of Sonata Arctica there with I Want Help. Before that, Primal Fear and Armageddon here on Blue Please. This is with, of course, TotalBiscuit. No one else, it's not the Murloc, and no, the Murloc is not controlling me. As some people are accusing me in the channel of being unable to control the Murloc. No. It's fine. I'm not being mind-controlled or coerced into anything. Of course not. Okay, a few shout-outs to go out before I get on the show. A shout-out to... how the hell do you spell that? Shaorin, possibly, who is 3k rep off getting an undead epic mount on Defiance Brotherhood. Awesome. A shout out to X-Ronjay, he's from Violent Noise, EU. Apparently, if I don't give him a shout, he'll nag me in guild chat for the rest of my WoW days. Oh dear. Okay, a shout out goes to Wolfos, who's just spent 7 hours in Molten Core and now wants to get his mind back. You listen to the wrong show if you want to do that. Shout out to Lizzle for returning to the White Rose Guild. That's from Freak Wave. A shout out to the Cutus from Elandra, if that's how you really pronounce it. You are a silly bastard for changing servers. Oh. A shout out to all Night Elf engineers out there. That's from Luku. A shout out to Eldini. That's from Kaltusk. Let's see, a shout out to Masalio, just for the sake of it. A shout out to Replica on EU Dark Sorrow for getting Ragnaros down. Congratulations. Shout out to Beer, that's from Airy because Beer is so epic. Agreed. A shout out to Shalindria, the sexiest Oompa Loompa in WoW. That'd be awesome if you do shout outs. I do. That's from Tom Smug. A shout out to TB for finally convincing me to drop Paladin to play Mage. Just hit level 14. Rock on. Okay. Let us get on with the show. Now, what else is coming in this patch? I just talked about mages for 15 minutes, and the point I was trying to make there is that there is no badge class in WoW. As long as you know how to play it. Now, it's not to say that all classes are perfect. Of course not. The new soul shard bag thing is ridiculous. Why should warlocks have to use a bag to carry soul shards when it would be far easier just to make the damn thing stackable in the first place? Not that that would solve the problem of having to have soul shards, which I totally disagree with, I might add. Sorry, I'm going to go off topic for 1 second and say, who thought that that was a good idea? So, you were coming up with classes beyond the basic few, warrior, priest, mage. So he said, okay, how can we make this different? Well, we can give them a pet. Oh, yeah, but they're night hunters now. Oh, we'll give them soul shards. So that the most powerful spells require a reagent. Oh, so their powerful spells are going to be more powerful than everyone else's. No, they'll be just the same. So what you're saying is that they've got spells which are just the same as, say, a mage spell. Like with stuff like Shadow Burners, like the same as Fire Blast, etc. But you have to use a reagent to cast them. Eh? Who thought that was a good idea? Now, I can understand it for the stuff like summoning demons and portals and that kind of thing. We've got to use reagents for portals. So, using a reagent for a ritual of summoning is fine. Using a reagent to summon a demon, okay. Using a reagent to cast a spell that is very handy in PvP. Yeah. Is all I've got to say about that, and that's not even a sentence. Oh dear. Anyway, yeah, back to the topic at hand. The point of the matter was, Paladins! Right, I know nothing about Paladins. I know how to fight them, but I don't know how to play them. But some of you know, no doubt. So... it's working! Yeah, it's working! It's working as intended, baby! Or is it? Paladins are getting a major rework in 1.9. Serious major rework in the same way that every other class before it has, i.e., well, druids and hunters, really. The warrior and warlock shaman... Warlock shaman? What's a warlock shaman? The warriors and warlock changes were a little bit half-arsed. Hunters and druids were more complete talent reworks. Paladins are getting changed. I don't understand paladins. Some of you do. I want to hear what you have to say. If you were to rework a Paladin, how would you do it? Email themurloc@gmail.com. For this week's Working as Intended. How would you fix the Paladin? Would you do everything that Blizzard's just done in the 1.9 patch notes? Would you, in fact, do nothing at all? Would you leave it as it is, or would you change it? How would you change it? We shall see. Okay, I'm going to leave that topic for now and let you lot rack your brains for a little bit of information. Back to the patch notes. What else is there interesting in the patch notes? What's going on? Why should we even care? Raid calendars. This is a big change for high-end raiding guilds. Most of you will be aware that stuff like Molten Core is on a cooldown, so that once you kill a boss in Molten Core, the instance is saved to you. So if you were to go back in, you would have the same instance. That boss would be dead, still. The mobs would probably have respawned because they're on a 2 or 3 hour timer, but the bosses are dead. And if you kill Magmadar in Molten Core, the Ancient Core Hounds, they don't respawn. If you kill Gar, the Lava Surges don't respawn. Unfortunately, if you kill Golomag, the Giants do respawn, but, well, there you go. What's the logic in it? To stop it being farmed. Your epics are supposed to be epic. Yes. I did say epic. They're supposed to be epic. So you're not supposed to have a whole bunch of them, and they're not supposed to be easy to get. That's the difference between commons, uncommons, superiors, and epics. And of course, legendaries. That's the difference. So, that's the reason for a cooldown. To stop people farming it hard. But they farm it anyway. Now, there are two major changes here. The first change is this. Molten Core will be reset every 7 days, and currently it's on a, please say that I've got this right, 6-day cooldown, I believe. Blackwing Lair is on the same, a 6-day cooldown. However, that cooldown starts when you kill a boss. What's the difference? The difference is this. It's not going to do that. If you start on, say, a Thursday at 8 o'clock and you kill a boss at 9, and say it was on the 7-day cooldown that they're proposing right now, it wouldn't reset until Thursday at 9 o'clock next week. However, the resets are going to be static. They will be reset during weekly maintenance. What does that mean? That means that if you were to start a Molten Core raid 3 hours before weekly maintenance, you finished 1 hour before weekly maintenance, you killed the boss, you left, when you came in tomorrow, that instance would be gone, and you'd be on a clean slate. Why? That is a very good question. I'm trying to follow Blizzard's logic here and work out why this is. What are the benefits? What does it change? What is going to happen here? Let's take the most simplistic thing first. 7-day cooldown on Molten Core and Blackwing Lair. Whereas before it was 6. So what's going to happen there is that there's going to be less farming. You can't do it every 6 days, you can do it every 7. It's going to slightly reduce the amount of epics that are coming out there. It's going to frustrate some hardcore guilds, perhaps. What it is going to do, though, it's going to open up areas in a raiding guild's weekly calendar to do Ahn'Qiraj. Notice the logic there. I heard guilds complaining that they wouldn't have time to do Ahn'Qiraj. They didn't have enough nights in the week. By extending the cooldowns, you open up spaces for Ahn'Qiraj to be done as well. Admittedly, it's going to get to a point where you're not going to have enough spaces and you're actually going to have to choose. That'll be cool. I agree with that. The idea of having to choose which instances you do rather than having a simple linear progression from one to the next would be nice. I would appreciate that. And it will happen. But not yet. Now, stuff's going to be reset during weekly maintenance. I don't see the logic in that, to be quite honest with you. I've had a think. I've been sitting here thinking, what are the benefits? Is it because it's a easier way of doing things for Blizzard? Is that why? Is there some kind of bug issue that we've got to deal with? Is this why it's being reset in weekly maintenance? It's a tricky one. If you've got any ideas as to why this is going to happen, and this is specifically referring to the cooldown resets, email themurloc@gmail.com. I'd like to hear from you, because this is one thing that's got me very, very stumped. I can't think of a logical reason for it. Now, Skylaze just said, a constant day for a raid is better than switching. Why? That's the question. Why? Why is it better? Some raids and some guilds would prefer to raid on certain nights. You can't expect them to necessarily raid at other times. Is this going to make a difference to them? Possibly. I mean, they're going to have to rework the schedules around this. There may be another reason for it that I do not know about. There is very little explanation in the patch notes as to why. It just says, this is what we're going to do. Okay. Fair enough. But why? If you can think of any answer to that whatsoever, email themurloc@gmail.com. We shall discuss it in good time. Okay. Now, the rest of the patch is pretty much your standard kind of stuff. It's what you'd expect from patch notes. Bug fixes, balance changes, and all that kind of jazz. A big class rework. Okay. A new instance. Yep. Linked auction houses. Yeah. Now, this is just one point I want to address before I go to the next music break. Linked auction houses. Okay. That's fair enough. However, that is not necessarily going to make people use cities more. Orgrimmar is the central hub. I'm not going to be in Thunderbluff because it's out of the way. There are less people there. If I want to get a group, I go to Orgrimmar. I don't go to Thunderbluff because there's no one there. I don't go to the Undercity because it's really horribly designed and bleh, it's full of green slime. It's unhygienic. This is not going to increase the use of cities. What it's going to do is going to give a handy way if you happen to be passing through to check auctions, but you're not specifically going to go there. It's not going to happen. But, again, just like the whole dressing room feature, it's a feature which is going to have some limited use, and I'm not complaining that it's getting put in the game, and no doubt it's not exactly taken a lot of effort to put in there. Now, I'll be discussing multiple battleground queues after the break, or trying to. You're listening to Blue Please here on WoW Radio. Perhaps it's time for a little bit of Ensophyrum. It's epic, it's slightly folky, and it's quite difficult to understand. This is a tale of revenge.
You're listening to the podcast and archive of Blue Please. You can listen in live on Sundays at 17:30 GMT. That's 12:30 Eastern Standard Time with a lively musical pre-show kicking off 1 hour beforehand. If you like WoW Radio's productions, then make sure to dig our shows at dig.com and check out our website at www.wcradio.com.
Everybody wants to hurt
Ladies and gentlemen, do not be alarmed. A cynical Brit has been allowed on the air with a microphone. You will listen, or the kitten we have hostage will be forced to fight a giant badger. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a Blue Please. Enjoy. Wow.
Radio.
The Sad Life of Gammon, only here on WoW Radio. That was, of course, Daryl Brewer, a.k.a. Brew Guy, the guy who created the winner of WoW Idol 2005, the Ganker. Everyone just yelled at me, where do I get that song, TB? You get that song from www.brewguy.ca/music. Go there now, I'll link it to you in the channel. That's brewguy.ca/music. You can also download the Ganker and the Ganker Unplugged, which was created exclusively for this show. And if you look back through the archives, you will find an interview with himself, Mr. Ganker, Brew Guy, the musical genius that he is. Nice one. Okay, back to the task at hand. I got some emails in for working as intended this week, so I'm going to get on with it. Right, okay, Paladin changes. Here we go. Wolfos is a level 60 Paladin. Here we go. Hey TB, this is a topic that is so hard to put it's untrue. Let me put it this way. We got a nerf to Bubble, a 1-minute debuff like Weakened Soul, which we needed. We got a 30% nerf on Seal of Command, which in the end was for 1 extra proc per minute. Now, that's kind of big, but not worth it. Though I use Seal of Command, it's not the main source of damage. The big thing we got were the amount of talents for PvP. An eye for an eye talent reflects 30% of critical spell damage you take back at the caster. That is a dream move, and I love it. Oh, God. I am going to have to stay away from Paladins with that one. Unpleasant. Pursuit of Justice is an 8% running mount speed increase. Stops runners from getting away so easily. Oh, God, no. It was bad enough trying to escape from the ones with bloody increased speed and speed potions, let alone that. And a talent which lets us our weapons proc with 15% strength and agility off the target. All of these talents are PvP orientated, which is nice, but I'd say this: they changed the way Paladins work. Now we have a lot of melee orientated moves like people wanted, but now the stuff and heals on the Holy Tree got placed and weakened to the point. Hang on, I'm just trying to read this. Heals on the Holy Tree got placed and weakened to the point it's not harder for us to heal. In the long run, it's not going to be fair for us Paladins that want to heal in raids. Okay, so what we're looking at here is a fundamental change to the way the Paladin class is going to work. Possibly at the expense of the way that it works already. Risky. Smiley Man says this about Seal of Command: it sucks. They should have left Seal of Command as it was in 1.8. People who have collected strength, agility and crit gear now need to change gear to plus intellect, since the idiots of Blizzard increased mana in trade for 1 extra proc and a useless extra amount of damage when judging SOC. They also removed 30% of the damage. Spam. That's his opinion on that one. Okay, Alex Drachev. Everything from the new patch is really good, except the part that we won't receive at least 1 strike. But not an overpowered strike, because Paladins are a defensive class. That's what people need to understand, that Paladins are meant to take the beating and survive, not dish out insane DPS. But still, a melee hybrid being outdamaged by a spellcaster hybrid is silly. But there is still a way to get good DPS, but people seem to neglect it. Paladins are very, very gear dependent, so to the whiners out there, learn to play. Okay. Now, that is the craziest name I've seen in ages. Let me try and pronounce it and fail miserably. Kostiantin Partola. Possibly. As someone who has played a Paladin for a very long time, I feel I know the class very well. I am very content with some of Blizzard's ideas in our talent revamps. They've made Paladins a lot more interactive. They've managed to control our DPS and burst DPS. They've also increased our DPS to a degree. Unfortunately, our survivability is still very large and our DPS is still the lowest. I have an idea how to fix this. Now, disregarding items for a moment, make Paladins wear mail their whole lives and give them DPS on the par of warriors as it is in low levels. At the same time, make the last talent in the protection tree the ability to wear plate. Now, since Paladins are a hybrid class that are meant to specialise with talent trees, make Paladins rely on talents. Make the talents uber super powerful, meanwhile nerfing the class skills to the same degree. Achieving, in this process, a class that can be made unique on almost every build. You'd have a lot of DPS if you went down the Retribution tree. You'd become a good tank if you went down the Protection tree, and you'd be a really great healer if you went down the Holy tree. At the same time, your tanking, your DPS, and your healing would greatly suffer at the expense of one. And if you want to become one great hybrid support guy, you just spec down all three trees. A similar idea to the way druids have been changed. You can specialise, but you'll never be good at everything. Okay. Oh, God. That is a long one. I'll read that out later. Now, back to the topics. I've pretty much covered everything I want to talk about in the expansion. It's not the expansion, it's the new patch. There are a couple of things I just want to cover. Now, the whole thing about having cities which are worth living in. This has always been a point that I've been a bit disturbed about. Now, also in the patch, they're going to be adding shared looking for group channels and shared trade channels. So you'll be able to see what someone is trading, etc. That's great. However, looking to trade this. Yeah, I would like to buy it. How much? Oh, 50 gold. Okay, that's fine. Where are you? Darnassus. Oh, I'm in Ironforge. Is that seriously going to help anything, really? People are not going to be in Darnassus because they know it's going to be too much of a hassle for them to get to the person they're trying to trade with in the first place. However, maybe there's another way around it. What if you as a trader were to use the shared auction house system to your advantage? What if you were to put something up, wanted to trade this item? I would like to buy your item. Where are you? Oh, I'm in Darnassus. Oh, I'm in Ironforge. Okay, maybe I don't want it. Ah, but wait. What if I put it on the auction house for you and you bought it straight away at that price? Oh, that's handy. Ho hum. A new age of auction house trading using the auction house trading system as a courier. There's a word for this. Escrow. Some of you who've used eBay will be well aware that some places offer escrow services, which are effectively a third party which your item is transferred through. It's for safety, basically. It provides a guarantee to your transaction. So effectively, you could use the auction house system, the shared linked auction house system, as escrow. So I want to sell an Arcanite bar to someone in Darnassus. He's at the auction house. I'm at the auction house in Ironforge. I agree on a price. I send it up there. He refreshes the page, sees my item with my name, buys it. He gets it immediately. I get my money. End of story. How useful. Now, looking for group over different cities. Yeah, I'm not so sure that that's going to encourage people to use different cities, but it's more of a case of I don't think it was designed to. I think what it's designed to do is to simply facilitate and not disadvantage people who don't happen to be in the main city. It's not going to make people think, oh, I'm going to go and hang around in Darnassus. They're not going to do that because it's a hassle to get there. But if they happen to be in Darnassus for whatever reason, they are not going to be disadvantaged in the way that you can't get in a group, you can't access the normal trade channels, you can't access an auction house. It's not the overall solution saying, hey, this is how we're going to fix everything. No. It's facilitation. It's not an encouragement for people to go to cities specifically, but it is an encouragement to stay. It's not giving an advantage to people who are in those cities, but it is removing the disadvantage of being there. Now that's a good thing. I definitely like that. Now, I'm well aware that you can send things by cash on delivery, but you seem to be forgetting one rather important item. there's a 1 hour delay. Cash on delivery is not used because I want my item now! I don't want it in an hour! Don't be ridiculous. So, the argument which is being put in the channel, people love to do this. They like to try and find my argument, see, ooh, I'll see if I can find a hole in his argument. Yeah, what can we do today? Nah! No, it didn't work, I'm afraid. The mailing system doesn't work because it takes an hour. And again, it can't stay in someone's inbox for 30 days. The reason I don't use COD is because someone could quite easily, if they were being an arse, simply say, okay, he sent a cash on delivery. I'm not going to pay for that. I'm just going to leave it in my mailbox for 30 days. So I've lost an item for a month. Oh, cash on delivery not seeming like such a good idea now, is it? Nice try, didn't work. Okay. Now, someone's just made a very good point in the channel. Demon Sword said that it helps when finding groups for out-of-the-way instances like Black Fathom Deep. And what Necromonger just said, which I think is probably the most poignant thing I've seen said all day in the channel, it gives us players a choice where we want our hometown to be. Yes, choice. Thank God, someone gets it. I like choice. I'm a big fan of choice. If I could spend all my days in Thunderbluff, I would, because I love it. But there's no reason for me to be there, because the auction house isn't there. But now, if I want to stay in Thunderbluff, I can. If I want to stay in the Undercity, say for the reason that maybe I am only visiting Kargath and doing Molten Core and so forth, I can do that. And I will not be disadvantaged. Handy. Useful. I see. The light finally dawns on my ignorant eyes. Speaking of ignorance, this is Rap in the Forums. Yo yo, faux shizzle and so forth, it's time for a very special edition of the one and only Rap in the Forums. It's a versus battle. Yes, indeed. Now, usually we try and find the worst, most disgustingly terrible posts on the forums and turn them into even worse, more disgusting than you could ever imagine raps of doom. However, this time around, we have a versus battle for the crown of worst poster in the world ever. Yes, I do mean ever. Okay, so, our competitors for the day, we have the Rappin' Tootin' Meet You from Daggerspine EU. And in the red corner, we have Mester, also from Daggerspine EU. Oh, we seem to breed these people. Okay. Are we ready to play? Spin it, and so forth. Meet You up first. Oh, yes. It's a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4. The point shouldn't be focused on guerrilla fights, just man. The server contains ±1,000 people, alliance and horde side. Prearrange rank status, this way your hands do get dirty. They do that by leeching down the way they set up teams. It's not personally their fault, but no one has the balls to call this ignorance a day. Including Blizzard doesn't make that extra option, and it's so easy to avoid this the way we are able to sign up, so this game doesn't get into the hands which to me is only ready to be abused. Cleansing. And if we speak now of only a certain little amount of people who junk this whole server to not reasonable playing and play without having 10, 20 people make out a whole PvP server ranking. But again, if, for example, a bank would open its safety deposit and anyone would just run in and steal as much as they can until the human nature of being reasonable stands up and starts to make the game run in reasonable lines. With the rules inside not to be ridiculed in no time, then this game would get rid of the cheap control of being greedy, and thus dismiss ideas, cause you're able to control alone where the flow goes. Then it's just a game to be forgotten as soon as people are fed up with gear. Shame, it's a joke. Why talk to more warlords in Dagger Spine and people who came now to high gear PvP? The unseen conclusion comes to the point where they agree with a point I make, but who's gonna change it? It almost looks as if the real predator rulers are simply confused by the boatload of sheep that run into one direction. Kinda funny that we are people with brains to notify what is going on instead of giving this endless madness some true game shape. Okay, time for Messer's turn. You know he'll be illin' today. Okay, it's a 5-2-3-7-2-5-4. It fits in the category weakened by guild rate to win in that situation. After we lost 3 bases with 12 players versus a strong horde team, that's your thought, but we won a lot of times versus Sot or Gorilla, so we do have chances. And no one stated something different. We weren't playing at that time. The post above explain the reason. Yes, I find it normal. I don't say I will do it, but I say there is no prop. If someone stopped playing a lost situation, by the way, I'm usually the one that wants to keep trying till the end, but that's another point. Yes, you can't really come randomly in the game for 2 minutes and believe you understood everything. We were playing all the game together and we knew the situation. We had yesterday a weaker team than Gorilla. Yesterday we lost mostly versus them. We can't retake a flag with the less strong team. The on-will victory we did versus them 1 or 2 yesterday. What cause? We got BS at start and we could defend it enough to get the points of safety. If you'd know the game better you could understand, but that doesn't seem it so. You're quite as funny as AFK, you know I react. So as you are spamming BS for a thing, total right and overall, right or wrong, and a thing you don't know at all, you have been as random as 2 effed minutes in our game. Shut up, man, really. Meet You's coming back for one final try. Oh my. It's a 7-5-2-3-2-5. It's about greed and being able to control and hold down another's ideas as you see the negative posts come from people who A, don't understand this post, or B, are making themselves guilty in this kind of fixed playstyle. You can't blame them is a conclusion. But Blizzard seems to be blind or lost in this huge project to keep real gaming lines in a good concept. I believe that StarCraft co-op competition never got this kind of sick, boring control. The skill divided much more inside a player than the force I am God by words. And 15 friends who ridicule the whole game on the whole server. This can be easy avoid if you put the power back in the hands of all players like it's meant to be cleansing. Inside a game doesn't promote gaming, especially if you see the way AB sign-ups are made is right into the pocket of abuse and control. If these options are made, I suggest the complaints about groups will be avoided, because I don't see anyone will loan his level 60 in useless prefixable AB games. I wouldn't be proud if in a country you have a vote, but in the end you notice it didn't matter cause it was all set up already. A vote should be a vote, and a sing-up shouldn't depend on stomping low levels 99% of the time. And in your pictures, pay and preview the wicked coincidence of people not playing and having a beer NP. But something is wrong, you're right. Therefore, Blizzard, open your eyes and make that change.
You're listening to the podcast and archive of Blue Please. You can listen in live on Sundays at 17:30 GMT. That's 12:30 Eastern Standard Time, with a lively musical pre-show kicking off 1 hour beforehand. If you like WoW Radio's productions, then make sure to dig our shows at dig.com and check out our website at www.wcradio.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, do not be alarmed. A cynical Brit has been allowed on the air with a microphone. You will listen, or the kitten we have hostage will be forced to fight a giant badger. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a Blue Please. Enjoy. Wow.
Radio.
Do I need a reason to play the Airwolf theme? No! So don't criticise me for it. It's not allowed. Yeah, you poor, insignificant, and totally... whatever. Yeah, I'm not the Murloc. The Murloc's better at insulting people than I am. Anyway, this is Blue Plays here on WoW Radio. Yes, that was the Airwolf theme. Those who don't know what Airwolf was, you are heathens to the cause, I say. Great helicopter show back in the 80s. I used to watch it when I was a kid. Basically, it was this helicopter that could do all sorts of things like backflips and fly into space and all that kind of thing. It was great. It was like the air version of Knight Rider. And if you're not careful, I'll play that, so stop it. Before that, MC Hammer, You Can't Touch This. And no, you cannot, with additions from MC Murloc. Oh dear. Murlocs will never get old. No, they won't. Right, okay. Now, someone took a long time to send me a long post about Paladins, and I think it would be only fair if I credited that work and actually read it. It's long, but I'm going to read it anyway, so make yourselves comfortable. Think of it as a bedtime story. Right, Mr. R. Peterson, also known as Zelu from Earthen Ring. He obviously knows what he's talking about. So here we go. The real problem with Paladins is that they're not supposed to be a healing/melee hybrid. Or, sorry, that they are supposed to be. But they're not. I and others find it rather peculiar that a melee caster healer hybrid does both healing and melee better than the melee healing hybrid. I.e., I assume what he means there is shamans. Shouldn't the melee healing hybrid be slightly better at, yes, melee and healing than a hybrid that is able to do all three things? Yes, I am talking about the Shaman. The Shaman is a great hybrid class. It does what it's supposed to do. The only thing the Paladin does better than the Shaman is that he wears heavier armor and as such can take more hits. Yes, he does have immunity shields. Oh, the agony. The immunity shields are annoying. Yes. Very useful? Not really. They let you live longer. Whoop-de-doo. No real effect on any battle apart from making you last longer. It has a use while soloing. They're like extra lives. If you manage to get killed while soloing as a paladin, you should go back to playing Tetris. At the moment, paladins are clerics. They are crappy priests who make up for their crappiness by wearing plate and having some rather beneficial party buffs, orbs and blessings. All nice. They do make a decent support class, and now what paladins want, which is what they are not getting in 1.9, is the ability to specialise. Specialisation is done via talent trees. Look at the druid. That's how you let a hybrid specialise and be better at one thing. Paladins have 3 talent trees: Holy, Protection and Retribution. These sound rather self-explanatory when it comes to what they do. In an ideal world, a Retribution Paladin would be decent at melee. Better than a Shaman, not as good as a Warrior. A Protection Paladin should be able to tank, more or less on par with a Feral Druid. A Holy Paladin should be able to heal better than a Shaman, even a Resto Spec one, although not as good as a Priest or a Resto Druid. This is, however, not how it is at the moment. Holy is the supposed healing tree, so what the hell is Holy Shock doing in this tree as the 31-pointer? Pre-1.8 and the Hammer of Wrath, this was the only non-undead ranged attack a paladin could muster. Why is this not in the tree that emphasises offence, retribution? I have no idea. I doubt that even Blizzard has. While Blessing of the Kings, a blessing that increases all of your stats by 10%, is the end tier of retribution. Did some dev make a typo here? The talent trees also have the issues that the talents are spread around in a very untidy and confusing way. Why is there a talent that increases your defense skill by 10 in the retribution tree? Tanking skills are supposed to go in protection. Again, they don't. There's a very simple solution to all of this. That is not being done with 1.9. Sure, 1.9 will tidy up the talents a bit, but they still lack specialization. What I'd suggest is to add one core talent to each tree that lets a paladin do that particular job a lot better. In the holy tree, add a talent that is somewhat alike nature's swiftness. Make your next holy spell instant, and suddenly paladins can throw a decent heal in an instant. In the protection tree, add a taunt. Yes, a taunt. Works exactly like the warrior taunt, except that it will require a substantial amount of talent points invested in protection. In the retribution tree, bring back one of the good old strikes, an instant attack that does weapon damage plus X holy damage with some cooldown. Something reminiscent of the Hunter's Raptor Strike. Why does a ranged DPS class have more melee prowess than a melee hybrid, That's a lot of text, I know. That's by Zelu, Earthen Ring. That's the best post I've ever seen anyone send to working as intended. That is astoundingly good. And I feel like I understand the Paladin a little bit more after reading it. Now, one of my ex-guildies had a similar kind of idea of the Shaman, saying that the Shaman was a bit messed up. And it's the same kind of principle, only as Zelu said, the Paladin seems to be a far more messed up class than the Shaman is. Hybrid classes are difficult, yeah. They're a tricky thing to get right. That's just the way hybrid classes are. They are tricky, they are not easy. Because they're not your core. There are certain things you expect a mage to be able to do, for instance, a priest, a warrior. But what about a hybrid class? What are they expected to do? Very good. Outstanding. You win the Murloc Award for Murlocness. And that's the end of the subject on the matter for this week's Working as Intended, as far as I'm concerned. Right, I've got a few more emails, a few more shout-outs, and a few more features to get out of the way before the end of the show. Okay. Right. Dave Pooley, also known as Gimbal, says, the way it works out now as regards to raid dungeon resets is as follows. Guilds are doing MC on different nights of the week, and this spreads the players with spare time out to do PvP and such. With a uniform reset, players will most likely be doing MC before and after the reset, and they will all have time for PvP around the same time, aka more battlegrounds. Interesting point. You must also note that multiple battleground queues are going to be put into the game, which is cool, because quite frankly, I don't want to have to choose between the battlegrounds. I wouldn't mind as long as it's a battleground. AV, AB, Warsong Gulch. It's all the same to me. I get to kill the Alliance, and that's what I'm on a PvP server for. More battlegrounds. Very interesting idea, something I didn't think of. Perhaps it would be a knock-on effect. We'll have to see. Okay. A few more shout-outs, and then I should be playing Nubcake News. A shout-out to Bat Fadger, or Fat Badger, or Cat Madger, Hat Zadger, Bat Fadger. He off-tanked in Zul'Gurub, and he did a good job. Although I'm sure he did get us killed a few times. Never mind. A huge shout out to all of Perfect Execution, especially Bearer and Soldier. That's from Anarchy. A shout out goes to Tenna, who sits around in her pants playing WoW all day. Rock on. Okay. Anyone else want a shout out? Do it now or forever hold your peace, because this is the last time I'm doing it this show. A shout out to Manel, who apparently killed the Fairy last week, and they're going to kill him again tonight on Storm Scale. That's from Pain. Anyone else want a shout out? Make it quick. And a shout out to Epoxy, who is my new guild. Some people will be aware that I left the Halibuts. I'm not going to explain why, but I'm in a new guild, and they're cool. I'm now their raid leader, and we took down the first boss in Zul'Gurub on our second ever try of Zul'Gurub. The first ever try as me as a raid leader. The fact that they even survived with me as a raid leader is a bloody miracle. So congratulations to them all. A shout out to the Paladin keyboard. That's from Katamari. Some people are no doubt aware of the Paladin keyboard. A shout out to the Bunker for playing on the Maelstrom, working on our level 40 mounts. That's from Yevon324. A shout out to the person's name I can never pronounce. Konempi. Possibly. Me. A shout out to Dan because it's me. A shout out to Angel Girl because she said me and grins. There you go. Everyone's shouting me today. A shout out to the Oblivion Guild on Dragonmore EU because we just owned Gehennas in MC. A shout out to the Adventurers Inc. Guild on Argent Dawn because they lack members. So I think Zinnik is putting out a request for more members. If you're on Argent Dawn and you want a guild, go and join Adventurers Inc. And they probably adventure. Yeah. A shout out to Wolf's uncle who just got hold from China. Well done. I wonder if we bought any gold over there. Evil Gnome says wait. Why does he say wait? A shout out to Marcelio. And a shout out to Core, taking Rag at 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. A shout out to Shorin, who is 3K. I've already said that! Varska, you're not paying any attention to me. I've already said a shout out to Shorin, who is getting 3k rep off getting the Undead Epic Mount in Defiance Brotherhood. A shout out to... Oh, Verelix says you for the sheer hell of it. So a shout out to me from Verelix. Very nice. Right, okay, that's enough. No more shout outs. I actually can't even see my RC window anymore. It's totally clogged. It's all dead. So, this feature has been missing for a few weeks. I've had writer's block. What can I say? I hold my hands up and say that I totally lost any ounce of creativity left in my body. This is Nubcake News. Welcome to this week's edition of Nubcake News. Coming up later in the programme, our investigation into the habits of the server hamster comes to a shocking conclusion, with scenes of violence and debauchery. But first, the circus is coming to town, or more accurately, this year's hottest fashion item. World of Warcraft is holding its first annual catwalk show, entitled Tier 2 Darling. Top models from around the world have been flown in to show off the latest designs of Blizzard Entertainment's fashion department, the largest and most well-funded department in the company. Already lines have been forming around the block to get tickets to this glamorous and exclusive event. We talked to several excited members of the Gamers Alliance for Noob Killers Gank, who had camped out for weeks to get tickets to the show. This is what they had to say.
This is clearly the most important event in WoW history. It will bring game balance as never before.
Wowzers, Blizzard rocks, tier 2 for the win.
Additional generic Blizzard compliment.
However, it would appear that not everyone is happy with this astounding technological development. A small group of protesters who call themselves the Whining Alliance for Noobish Control, or... Wait, I can't say that on air. Is someone trying to get me fired? It's not funny, you bastards! First the office party and now this... yes, sorry. This small group has been protesting outside the event's venue for the last few weeks, shouting such obscenities as Nerf Blizzard and mount giant water bottles to the shoulders of the Netherwind lol. We braved the yelling and smell to talk to their leader, a Mr. Dark Emperor 007, who had this to say.
We think that Blizzard are Ted-Ubs for creating these new tier 2s. Why must Blizzard ruin absolutely everything? I could do a better job. Just give me a copy of MS Paint in 20 minutes. We all know that's what Blizz uses. Lol. It's obvious that Blizzard should listen to the community and not its own art directors on how new art should be created. The results would be far better. I mean, there's 4.5 million of us, and only 20 of them. So clearly we would do a better job. Lol. A bizarre turn of events indeed. So we turn to the experts. Famous fashion designer Calvin Clone found time in his busy mincing schedule to talk to us.
Oh yes, well, Blizzard's new range will clearly be this season's must-have, darling. You can't be seen without it, oh no. That would make you a very bad person. Wrath will be the hottest seller, with its ever-so-chic Power Ranger crossed with a blender looks very sharp. Indeed, sweetie.
We ran for almost 20 minutes without looking back until we were sure that we'd escaped the clutches of this crazed madman. But the conclusion is clear. Tier 2 is here to stay, and anyone who disagrees with its super mega awesomeness will be taken away and shot. This reporter is going to put on his bright purple Dragonstalker set and then move unseen through the undergrowth as he hunts his prey. This has been Nubcake News. Good night. Are you scared yet? You should be. No, I will never ever do that voice again in a million years. Don't bother asking. You listen to Blue Please here on WoW Radio with myself, TotalBiscuit. I've got 10 minutes left of the show, and that's just enough time for the one and only Imbecile of the Week. Now, usually I have to look long and hard to find imbeciles of the week. Fortunately, we've actually found ourselves an imbecile of the year who seems to come up with the best posts ever. So I'm going to get you this post and I'm going to read it out to you. Let's see if I can find it. Now, this is the guy on the EU forums that some of you may know as Replicant. It took him 3 months to get his epic mount. And he's a Paladin. Yeah, you know, the one that you get a free epic mount on. Yeah, Paladin's going to come kill me now. Okay. Some of you hardcores need to try real life. You're ruining the game for the rest of us because you're 21 years old, or under 21 years old. You have a lot of free time on your hands. Your Uber achievements are making the game too inaccessible for the rest of us. I.e., you achieve something very good, but then Blizzard feels it has to give you something even harder. This makes all the good items get further and further out of the reach for the casuals like me. I remember people were reaching level 60 within 10 days when the game first came out. I'd be surprised. Also, because all of you hardcores are getting your Uber equipment, all the new instances that come out with the best gear are 40-man raids, further excluding us casuals again. Not to mention all the hardcores are owning PvP battlefields through your dizzying ranks, plus you get all the DKP points. You swamp the test servers because you can leave your PC on all night and even sit by it. Everything in this game is being ruined by people who play this game 10 hours or more a day. For God's sake, go out and go to nightclubs like I did when I was your age. Give some of us a chance. This game could survive without the hardcores, but not without the casuals. We are seeing less than 10% of the playing population getting monopoly on all the best gear. You invented DKP points just to tighten your grip on all the best drops too. Where do I start? Replicant's always good for coming up with total and complete crap. And he's excelled himself this time. Right. So, the first thing he says... You achieve something very good, but then Blizzard feels it has to give you something even harder. What? So what you're saying is that Blizzard... Is it Blizzard that's in the wrong, or is it the hardcore players? So I'm not sort of following there. Is it Blizzard's fault for giving some people something else to do when they've run out of things to do? I can't help but notice that casuals always seem to complain about this. Zomg! All the new content is for hardcores. Yeah, but what you're not seeing is the fact that you haven't done all the content in the game yet, whereas hardcore, quote-unquote, gamers already have. So, the people who are going to leave the game are the people who don't have anything left to do. That's the reason you leave a game, because you're bored with it. Not because you're forced out by hardcore players. No, not at all. You're not being forced out by hardcore players. You just feel the need to compete. You feel the need to be the best, and you can't. You can't be the best because there's always a bigger fish. And if you can't accept that, then this is not the game for you. All you hardcore players are getting Uber equipment. Really? Wow, that is astonishing. People who are playing the game more are getting better equipment. Wow, we'll better fix that right now. It's clearly a bug. You're owning PvP battlefields through your dizzying ranks. Hang on. Don't you have to own PvP battlegrounds to get dizzying ranks in the first place? How does that work? You get all the DKP points. Yeah, you get points for being there. Wow, that's crazy. Effort equals reward. Oh wow, you know, that's never a concept that's ever been introduced in real life or any kind of game. You know, that's crazy. I thought I could actually sit here, do nothing, and I would get everything just delivered to me on a silver platter. That would be great. I'd love that. No, I wouldn't, because that would be pointless. Everything in the game is being ruined by people who play this game 10 hours a day. That is everything, folks. Absolutely everything. So, quests are being ruined, instances are being ruined, battlegrounds are being ruined, open world PvP is being ruined, auction houses are being ruined. The ability to ride around and look at the scenery is being ruined by people who play this game 10 hours a day. Or so says Replicant. For God's sake, go out and go to nightclubs like I did when I was your age. I go to nightclubs, but I play a lot as well. That's insanity, Batman! We can't possibly do that! Give some of us a chance. You've been given a chance. You were given a chance to get your epic mount, and it took you 3 months to do it. You suck! You're a paladin. You get it off a lot easier than the rest of us. You tried to do the quest for 3 months, and you didn't. This game could survive without the hardcores, but not without the casuals. You seem to forget the hardcore players are the ones that drive people to achieve more. The race to beat instance bosses, and let's face it, that is one of the only big achievements you can have in this game, is pushed on by hardcore guilds and hardcore players. There is a place for both. And right at the end, just to add, we are seeing less than 10% of the playing population getting a monopoly on all the best gear. There's no monopoly, and you've just pulled that statistic out of your arse. The icing on the cake of a terrible, terrible argument. Good timing on the background music. Apparently we invented DKP points just to tighten our grip on all the best drops. No, invent DKP points because random rolling on epic items is a stupid idea. How would you feel if you went on 20 raids, the item you wanted dropped, and then you lost it to someone who was done 1 raid? How is that fair, I ask you? Whinging, whining, crying your eyes out. Go and compose an emo album, you sorry excuse for a human being. You've been listening to Blue Please with myself, TotalBiscuit. I won't be here next week. I'll be on a plane, and I certainly can't complain. What can I end with? I'm not going to end with Warriors of the World because we've played it too many times now, and it's becoming cliche. And that would suck. Thank you for listening to my show. I will be on Ironforged on Tuesday, part of the Downtime Down Under. Check the schedule on our website for the rest of the shows. Ancient of Lore coming up on Monday. Check our archives if you haven't heard them already. This has been Blue Please. I've been TotalBiscuit. This has been the Murloc.